Well, I'd like to start by just thanking the Lord for Salem Baptist Church, because it's His initiative, it's His prompting that started the whole thing. We were on the staff of the Tucson Baptist Temple out of college when we graduated from Baptist Bible College. June the 10th, 1975 was my first day at Tucson Baptist Temple. And we worked there and labored there, just enjoyed it. And then along about being there about 15 years or so, we began to kind of get stirred up that the Lord would want us to do something else. Pastor Johnson, who's in heaven today, was a church planner. He planted the church in Tucson and would always challenge us to consider. I remember the time when we went up to Sacramento and we looked around and we thought that we would start a church there. We knocked doors and we thought we would, but when we got back, nothing would fall into line. Our home wouldn't sell. We just didn't have a peace that that's what we should do, but we felt God prompting us. So we left it with the Lord, and the Lord was really blessing. We were seeing souls saved and Christians strengthened, and we were in charge of a young married class. It was doing well. But when we would come home, we would be unhappy. I remember Pam being very unhappy, and we just, nothing was wrong, nobody offended us. It was just in our heart, the Holy Spirit was creating a desire to do something for Him. He was calling us to do this. And so Pam was way ahead of me. She said, I know what the Lord wants us to do, but I fought it. Yeah.
I was like, I don't belong here anymore.
Yeah. And it wasn't that, again, people were mean or rude. They loved us. We've been there for that many years. But it just that, again, it was God's way of stirring up our nest. And so we finally, I surrendered. I said, okay, Lord, I will be willing to go. So then to try to discern where to go was a very difficult thing. Then Ken McCormick, who had been my junior high teacher in Tucson, heard that we were interested in starting a church, along with Jim Bailey, who pastors in Ukiah, California. Of course, Jim and Barb Bailey were members of Tucson Baptist Temple, as well as the McCormicks. Jim urged me. He said, you know, and we talked a lot about a call to ministry and how he knew he should go, and had a good talk with him the summer prior to all of it. Brother McCormick asked us to come up. He said the Northwest needed churches. So we planned a vacation to come up and drop the girls off at my brother. And then you and I left from Spokane and went over to the coast. We would go straight across the state and into Seattle, northern Seattle area. Well, we had visited, I don't know how many cities, but when we came to Salem, it seemed like just the Holy Spirit said this was it. He just impressed upon our heart how much He wanted us here.
We'd sit there at night and we'd say, where are we supposed to be? And we'd look at each other and I said, where do you think we should be? After going down there and seeing all these cities, where do you think? And you said, Salem.
Yeah, so then when we made that commitment to come, then we went back and our house sold and all the things fell into place. And so by faith we packed up and off we came.
This is the last service for Brother Steve and Pam and Brown and their family. They're moving up to Salem, Oregon to start a new work. I was sitting there thinking about Brother Steve's been working here 21 years, been in the bus ministry, junior high department, young married. He's preached and taught. What a help he's been for these many, many years. I knew it was coming, but you're never ready for these situations. But I believe God's going to bless them.
Cherith was 4, Jewel was 10, and Esther was 16. And up we came, and I remember when we drove up, we took 101 up the California coast. We stopped and spent an evening with the Baileys, and then we came on up. It was sunny and bright and nice, and the moment we crossed the border into Oregon, it was cloudy, it started raining, it was dark, And it was our anniversary, just raining, and we looked at each other and we thought, boy, if this is the summertime, what in the world will the wintertime be like? And we pressed on ahead, and remember we got to Salem, put our stuff into storage, and found the place over on Fircrest to live. It was a rental place. We began to make phone calls. We began to try to study the map. I got a map of Salem, remember, and studied and put a circle where I thought the church should be, and they were right in the middle of that circle. It's amazing. We tried Sumter. We tried the school up north. We tried 3 or 4, and they all said no. So then Brother McElroy suggested that we try the Grange Hall. And boy, we were able to locate it. It was $15 an hour, but you had to do all the cleaning up, all the setup and everything, and you had to leave it presentable. I remember the first time we went out and outdoors, Esther went with me, and she fainted. I went over and I said, "Are you all right?" And we got her something to drink, and she says, "I think I've gone out too long." So we would go out and begin to gather, tell people what we were doing, going to start a new church, and would you be interested? And yes, and we would get those names, and then a week out we began to call everybody. And I remember Steve and Shauna Wolf actually called us, and they said, "We got a flyer on our door, when are we starting?" And boy, that was a real encouragement. So our first meeting was at the Salem Heights Grange Hall, the second Sunday of September. We had, 23. Thursday nights started not long after we got the Grange Hall, because we felt we wanted to have a midweek service. But I remember clearly talking to the lady. She said, "You can't have Wednesday night, there's a dog grooming class." Of course, we were in the Grange Hall, so we took Thursday night. It was the only thing we could do.
But the people became more faithful.
Yeah, as we began to have our midweek service. It began to catch the pirate, didn't we?
Yeah.
Appreciative of your being here and having the children sing tonight. So we're really looking forward to our services and thrilled about the future of the Salem Baptist Temple.
Chartered on December the 8th, and yes, Brother T.J. Smith down in Albany helped me get that around. There was a number of pastors that came from several different churches. The quartet came from Albany and sang for us, and Brother T.J. gave the charge, or no, Pastor McCormick, one of them, and then we had our charter, and we must have had a good 27, 28 people sign the charter. That would have been the fall of 96 and the fall of 97. Those years, I think, were record years for rain.
So we started the paper out right away because I needed school supplies for the school that year, basically, because that's how we were
Paying our school
paying
in
our
Tucson.
school in Tucson.
We ended up not doing the paper route very long
No.
because we had to do it differently than in Tucson because of the weather. And then, of course, I broke my ankle. We were in a cul-de-sac, and I believe that Jewel and Cherith were in the van, and we ran the papers up, and I could hear this guy was just flying from the back of this cul-de-sac, just racing out of there, and I was running, and I thought, he doesn't see me. So I tried to stop, and my foot planted, but the rest of me went, and boy, did my ankle hurt. We got the route done and got home, and I said, boy, maybe it was just a sprain. It began to hurt worse and worse, but that was the same week that we were chartering the church. The very next Sunday, that was on a Monday. The next Sunday was the chartering service. I just didn't have time to stop and go to the doctor, and now I wish I would have maybe done that different, but the doctor looked at me and said, had you come when it happened, you wouldn't have to have surgery. I went to the doctor the 10th of December.
Right after the chartering service.
I went in for
you
surgery,
went to the
didn't I?
hospital, basically.
I said, I'll have surgery on one condition, that is that I can be out to preach because I've got a brand new church. My heart was in it. I wasn't going to miss. We had, I remember the first baptismal service at the Grange Hall. So how were we going to baptize the people that needed to be baptized? I remember getting a galvanized horse trough.
It was like a waterproof
Decorative thing around it.
floral thing that we put around it, and we put that on and take it off.
Lord said, I know there's one for sale, there is no sign. So he somehow had an inside track to know that building works actually where we're at now was for sale. And we were able to negotiate with those people. It was kind of a strange, eerie kind of building when you walked in, there was stuff on the wall, and we prayed and purged. All the pastors that were supporting us said they would stand true for so much, and if they needed to, but we got around and made that payment. So we met and everybody gathered and prayed, and then we cleaned and had the building then, started there. Remember the original sign we had for a long time, because we needed parking spots and we can't keep the sign up anymore. It was very rough along Liberty until the city came, and but then now it's a nice, one of the major north-south runs here in town. But I remember the time you walked out and said, that's it, we need more room, something's got to give. So that's what I think was the catalyst to look into buying a modular building. We have an acre now that God has given to us. We're kind of landlocked, but the city said that we could put a building on it if we can continue to keep the proper amount of parking spaces. So we were able to set a modular building on there, February of 1998. Boy, the kids coming to that was a heyday. It was really going well. And then the very next month, March of 98, we had our first missions conference. So I think we took on like 6 or 7 missionaries our first year, and there was a strong desire to give to missions. And Wally Williams came and instituted Faith Promise Giving. And boy, how the Lord has blessed that.
All of our Sunday school teachers would do, change the room into looking like it's the country, and they would go put forth a real effort to have food that's from that country, and even props, and they would have dressed up.
But then when Esther came back from college, she and her husband were going to go into missions. And I think it really helped our church know when one of our own young people was a missionary. Boy, they were all in. They were wanting to support. Our records indicate, I think our Faith Promise goal has been higher every year since we started. And we made the goal. Here in 2021 will be our second year that we will go over the $100,000 mark. But Jonathan and Elisa Lou, who are now missionaries in Thailand, came and did their internship with us and prepared to go to Thailand. So that really put a lot of emphasis on missions as well. And I think Salem Baptist Church has made a great contribution to the cause of Christ. And now the spirit of giving is wonderful. It's fun to have new people come to our church and teach them this, and they just sense this is what you do. I think the growth of the church has confirmed God's call. We came, and it wasn't something we were dreaming. The Lord really had a plan for this church. And many people came from our door-to-door work, and that was our main emphasis. We didn't do anything else other than the Bible way of door-to-door. And so many people said we're here because our door was knocked on. Our first anniversary, we had over 100 people, and we just had lots of people. Our second, third anniversaries, large days.
If you remember, because we couldn't get everybody in the
Yeah.
building.
So after we basically got to the point we needed more room, we were allowed then to come out from the kitchen that was there, because there's a large basement and the land sloped down. We were able to build 2 stories, a sun kitchen area in the bottom, and then up top it was nurseries and a handicap bathroom. So that was, we grew to that point that we were able to add that on 300 square feet, both up and down. Our church is like our lives. We got a great start, and we got growing and all. Our church went through trying times or difficult times, and hard, doesn't mean bad. They weren't bad years. They were years we were continuing to reach people, but there was, when we tried to add on to our facility and put in the new foyer and expand out the auditorium, that when you're fighting the devil, when you're going forward for the cause of Christ, just like in the Bible, just like Nehemiah, boy, there was a real fight there when he was trying to build. All sorts of trouble broke loose, and that's the same thing at Salem Baptist Church. They're not bad, that's just growth. We grew, we felt we needed to expand the building, use what we had to honor God all we could, because that acre we wanted to use until God tells us to move. So we did expand, and it was a little bit more difficult. We lost some families, but God saw us through that, and there's a building there that honors the Lord, and His work has gone forward through those difficult times. We referred to having, over the years, a number of young people at Bible colleges. Those young people, most of them are still active in ministry. We've got people up in the Woodburn area. We've got a number of churches around the United States. Young people from our church have married, are in ministry. Lots of young people doing a fantastic job for the Lord. This is a tremendous milestone, 25 years. And you know, it's God gets the credit and the glory. He's the one that orchestrated it, led us here. He's helped us. We have not done everything perfect. We've tried to listen to Him and obey His will. You know, it's the wonderful people, and we would never be able to begin to list all the names of all the dear people, whether they're attending our church now or not. We've just seen so many miracles, lives changed, souls saved, homes put back together, just some of the most wonderful times. And to God be the glory. But then it's not us, it's the people, it's their church. We just have the precious privilege of being the under shepherd to encourage them and guide them. Some real growth taking place. COVID forced us into 2 services. I was pondering what the next step was to use our facilities. I don't want our church to be in debt. So now we have 2 services, and I don't think we can put everybody back together again. God has grown the church that much. And hopefully in the future, if it be God's will, He'll open the door for a building, maybe make that new building Salem Baptist Church with more room. I'm excited about Jewel and Nathan going to Portland to have our church help and to be the sending church of a new church in Portland, and then Alan and Cherith coming and helping. We want to continue to reach people, support missionaries, continue to preach the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. I've learned through it all that God has been faithful. He has watched over us. He has cared for us. If we're faithful to Him, He will continue to bless through the thick and the thin.